as a family, we always do everything together and have a family discussion, even when the children were 2 and 4 and 5.
That's
So if we're
right.
going out to buy a car or a van, we have a discussion. A
Mhm.
lot of our discussion takes place around the dining table.
This is By Joyan Season 2. I'm your host, Joyan Chan, and every Wednesday we bring you inspiring stories, powerful message, and fun conversations with me and my special guests and friends, and it's my personal mission to empower you to live and lead a life with joy. This podcast is for you if you're looking for more joy, courage, passion, and purpose in your life. Now let's dive into today's episode and get ready to laugh, learn, and live your life to the fullest. Our guest today is a power couple who have co-authored the book It's Never Too Late Sometimes, From Health Setbacks to Success, A Family's Odyssey. In this gripping memoir of survival and academic achievement, readers follow the extraordinary journey of the Stanberry family, whose ordinary spring Thursday morning changed the course of their lives forever. Through a step-by-step narrative, the book chronicles their daughter, Samantha, as she battled with this rare disease, tracing her path from a young 2-year-old facing mortality to a determined young successful woman walking across the graduation stage with a law degree in hand. But this isn't just about Samantha. It's a testament to the unshakable spirit of strong family support, active determination, and the power of shared purpose. And they are here today to tell you that it's never too late sometimes. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming Yvonne and Cleveland Stanberry. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Joy, and thanks for having us.
Thank you very much, Joyan. Thank you for being here. And we look forward to sharing our story about this memoir, which goes across three major themes. One of the diagnosis of Samantha's illness, the other is the treatment and the journey through that treatment. And then, fortunately, throughout that journey over 20 years, how as a family we were able to have educational success, having received 7 degrees, five undergrads and 2 masters from one university. So thank you very much for being here, for having us here, I should say.
Yeah, well, good morning to you. And yeah, I saw the family picture of the graduation. I was like, this is so inspiring. Of course, I would love to talk about that. But let's talk about the start, the very beginning of the story. This is a question for Yvonne, I believe. Thank you again for sending me the book. I really enjoyed reading it. So, Yvonne, can you take us back to the moment when you first realized that Samantha's health challenge was more serious than expected?
Okay, so after resigning from corporate, my week home now with the children, trying to figure out how to go about my days, I noticed spots and on Samantha's body. I booked an appointment with a pediatrician to take her there on the weekend. And so Thursday morning in spring, I think it was in May, after Cleveland left for the airport, I went back to bed, woke up, and prayed. And then immediately after, I heard the voice said, Samantha is sick and the clock is ticking. Opened my eyes, look around. I was the only one in the room. Okay, so I remained there thinking, wondering what's this voice is all about. Then during that time, two of my children came inside the room, my son and one of the twin girls. And I asked, where is Samantha? My son said, she's still sleeping. So I asked my son to go and wake Samantha. He came back with Samantha. I keep looking at her over and over to see what is so serious with her. And I said to Samantha, are you feeling okay? She said, yes, she's feeling okay. Immediately decided that I'm going to need to take her to the doctor today, even though I'd have a previous appointment on the weekend. So I said to the children, I'm going to call grandma, have grandma come over and watch you two, and I'm going to take Samantha to the doctor. So I did all of that. Grandma came, which is my mom, and I took Samantha to the family doctor. The family doctor examined Samantha, sent me off, gave me a letter, and sent me to Hospital 1. While at Hospital 1, they gave me another letter and told me I have to go to another hospital, which is a children's hospital in downtown Toronto. And so from Hospital 2, I ended up staying there for 4 days before returning home. So Cleveland will maybe add to that after.
Yeah, I remember in the story, in the book, right, you were attending a conference. So tell us about, the moment when you heard the news that your daughter is in hospital.
Yeah, it was very pivotal. I left at 5:30 that May 15th, 2003 morning, took a cab to the airport, flew out. I was speaking for the entire day at this conference. So I was running it, and it just so happened I normally would call home as soon as I land at my destination. Things weren't going well that morning. In that it was, it was just rush, 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 rush. So when I landed in Ottawa, I was reviewing my presentation that I was going to be doing for the day. I didn't get a chance to call home. So I said, I will call it during the lunch break. So as normal, I gave the attendees a break at about 12:30, and I called home. And the moment I called home, Yvonne's mom, Pauline, in the book, said to me that Yvonne has taken Samantha to the family doctor, and the doctor sent her to Hospital 1. And for no sensible reason, I don't know why, I just said in my head, wow, Samantha has cancer. It just gripped me at that moment. There was no rationality. There was no indication that she could have had cancer. All we saw were these spots on Samantha. And when Yvonne was combing her hair, Yvonne would see blood on her hand. But we were resting assured that, we had an appointment with the pediatrician coming up that Saturday. So we still felt very confident. So it was at that moment when I heard that she was at the hospital that something just sunk in my heart. And then there was a second time when I realized that this is bad. And that's when the oncologist said to me, we don't think it is cancer, but that's farther into the book. And I was happy. I said, oh, that's good. And she said, no, that's not good. She has a far more severe disease that we don't know how to treat as much as we know how to treat cancer. And that disease was told to us as severe acute aplastic anemia.
So I have a question. So Yvonne, you heard the voice that, Samantha is not well. Take her to the hospital.
That's right.
How is ticking. I just have
Yes.
goosebumps just thinking about that and reading it in the book. So where did you believe that voice came from?
That's a very good question. I'm a woman of faith. Actually, I had devotion that morning. I prayed, and just after praying, I heard the voice. So I believe that was divine intervention. Speaking to me to warn me of the severity of Samantha's illness.
And can I say something here? Yvonne says that was divine intervention. I had to leave home that morning because had I been home, human intervention, that's me, would have come in and rationally say, "Nah, we have an appointment with the best pediatrician in the city. Don't. Let's wait until Saturday."
Yeah,
So it was good in my mind that I was not home.
yeah, yeah, for sure, right? So everything happened for a reason.
Yes.
How did two of you, because it lasted for how many years, the treatment process?
The initial treatment process lasted for 6 years, but the continuous visit to the hospital continues up until today. Yes.
Wow,
Yes.
today.
Yes.
Okay. So how did you manage to maintain hope and have the strength to go through everything, the whole process, driving back and forth, to from home to hospital, despite the gravity of the diagnosis, the unknowns of the results?
That's
Let me
right.
say something and then ask Yvonne. For me, Yvonne is more hopeful than I am, just as a human being. That's who she is. I worry a lot more. But one day, this would have been about May 20th, 25th ish, within that week, I was coming alone with Samantha from Sick Kids. We had gone. She got blood transfusions, and I was on my way back. And I clearly remember I was just driving by the Toronto Pearson Airport at that point, and I got very low, and the thought hit my head: why did this have to happen to us? Like I think it happens to most people, like that question. And the answer came back the very second that the idea hit my head. And the answer was, it's a little bit morbid. It happens to us because I am not going to jump off a bridge. What does that mean? I am not going to take it so seriously and badly that I am going to wish to do something drastic to take myself out of the situation. I felt that, and this might be a trigger warning to anyone who is listening, to take sensitive people out of the room or out of the area. I said I'm going to fight through this, and that's why it happened to us, and that gave me hope. And I remember coming home and telling Yvonne about it, and I remember Yvonne saying she's going to pray. But you could pick it up from here, Yvonne.
Oh, yes. So through continuous praying and belief, in Jehovah, I pull through. I pull through the process, take it one day at a time, step by step. That's how I went along with the process of her illness and the treatment.
And I could just say that, like I said, I am the worrier. I would worry about things like, okay, the traffic is too heavy. Will we get to Sick Kids on time? Do we have enough syringes? We had bags of syringes that we'd use for the various medications. So I would literally worry about those things. And then I'd say, Yvonne, you can pray. You pray about it.
Yeah.
And that's how we went through it.
Yeah, but I wish Samantha is on the show as well, because how was she coping it from your perspective as parents? How was she coping it?
She was diagnosed at age 2. So as a toddler, she didn't understand what was happening until about, I think she was around age 4. We were coming home from the hospital, and she looked at me and said, "Mommy, why do I have to go to the hospital so often?" And I said to her, "You are sick, so the doctor just need to take a look at you and see how you're doing, just to make sure that you're doing well." So we didn't initially tell her at that early age what is really wrong with her or how serious her illness is, because I figured she still wouldn't understand. So I think the true term of her health wasn't revealed to her until maybe around age 10, where I think she would be able to understand more what is happening, the seriousness of it.
How did she respond to it when you told her that age 10?
Oh, she never acted it. We didn't see any sadness or anything, because she's been going to the hospital so long, she become used to it. She realizes by then that nothing serious is happening to her. She get her transfusions, she go home, she plays, she do everything just the same as normal. We're not rushing with her every second to the hospital because she's not well. She was a very vibrant, active young child. She took part in every school activities, from track and field, cross country, basketball, volleyball, swimming. She was still active, and we tried to maintain that for all 3 children so as to take them away from the seriousness of the illness. We didn't want them to dwell on it and become sad and do not enjoy childhood.
Yeah.
So we just try to give them a normal childhood so that they can look forward towards those things.
Yeah, it's all about what you focus on, right? What you choose to focus on.
Right. Yes.
So here's a question for both of you. If you could go back, and if you could go back to the day of the diagnosis, like, is there something you would do differently or tell yourself?
For me, I would ensure that I leave home and stay away and not be in touch. So I would keep that perfect, because I think because of that, Yvonne could independently make a decision without me disturbing her, because she's the one who heard the voice. I did not. So I wouldn't change. I don't see how we would. From my perspective, I would change nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things that happened, which is just crazy and amazing, the first time I ever missed a flight that I wanted to get on was that day. And the It just so happened I missed the flight. I went on the next flight, which was half an hour later, and I grabbed a cab from the airport, rushed to Hospital One, and just as I went through the door and asked about where Yvonne and Samantha were, and they pointed me, I was walking towards the direction of where they said she was, and as I'm going through that second door, the door opened. And that was Yvonne pointing at me and saying, "Hey, there he is."
Yeah.
To the doctor
Mhm.
at Hospital One.
Yeah.
So the timing was just perfect.
Yes.
Had I seen it in a movie, I'd say, it's a little cheesy. Life is not like that.
Yeah.
That's true. As for me, looking back, I wouldn't change anything because when I look back on this situation, for me, I was very happy that I was obedient in the fact that I decided to resign from my corporate job. That obedience led to Samantha still being with us today because if I didn't resign, I wouldn't have the flexibility to just take her to the doctor right there and then. I was home with her. I'm watching her. I know what is happening to her. I mean, so there isn't anything I would change looking back. I'm just happy that
Yeah.
I was available. I was obedient. We were obedient
Yeah.
in doing everything that we did.
And the
Yeah.
funny thing is that we were obedient almost a year earlier because we had three young children who two had to be in full day daycare and one would have to be in half day daycare at that in 2003.
Yeah.
And we did it from a finance perspective to say, hey, what does it cost to have three children in daycare? And then when we did the analysis, we said, hey, no, it is not financially viable. So 1 year earlier, we were running a budget to see how we would finance the household. And then we decided in March of 2003 that
Right.
Yvonne would stop working and leave her corporate job. And so she did. And she resigned early in March. And by about April 9th, I think,
Yeah.
was the last day at her corporate job. And by the 15th, she was spending time with Samantha, who was admitted to a hospital.
Right. Cleveland, I have a question for you because I know you taught your kids from a young age about investing, right? About money, about
Yes.
management, about finance, about budgeting. And I think that is so beautiful. And personally, I have a nephew and a niece. I don't have kids. And my sister, they don't teach them about money at all. And so what would you say to parents? So how do you teach your children about investing at such a young age?
So, for whatever reason, a lot of things we do are unorthodox. And money management is one of those things. As a family, we always do everything together and have a family discussion, even when the children were 2 and 4 and 5.
That's
So if we're
right.
going out to buy a car or a van, we have a discussion.
Mhm.
A lot of our discussion takes place around the dining table because those days we all ate together at the same time. No, that's not the case. Our son doesn't even live in the country in which we live. He lives away, he works somewhere else. Our daughters now have different schedules for work and so forth. But I'm very glad that we took the time to always have discussions at the dining table. And we always talk about everything. So I might be saying, hey, you know what? I think we should do this type of investment or we should do this type of savings. So I was a strong opponent of investing. Okay, I strongly believed in investing and I didn't believe so much in savings because when you put your money into a savings account, again, we are biased, it's our opinion, we don't think you get the returns and the growth that you could potentially get on the stock market.
Yeah.
So when you look at the stock market since 1972, for example, simple, the Standard and Poor 500, S&P 500, the growth of $100 in the S&P in 1972 is going to be far, far superior to the growth anyone could get in a savings account. So those were the things I would tell the children, and that savings is not good. Something else is better. It's better than saving than to investing. And they didn't understand it well. But the proof was I opening one of the first things I did was to open a trust account for them when they were very young and a legal trust account so that if Yvonne and I passed away, then they could, whatever is in the trust account, once they became an age of, I think it was 18,
18, yeah.
18-year-old, then they could start managing it. But before that, someone else could manage it for them. That money eventually we took and rolled it over into their first year of university. And they were aware of it. They knew what we were doing. And then once they could open an account, I opened the account in their names, and whatever monies they got, it went in. And then I would teach them in terms of good, better, best. So put this money in the savings account, see what the growth is after a year. They realize, oh, the interest is just 2%. And then, okay, so how did this particular investment, like a dividend income, do for that year? Oh, the growth was, I used a particular dividend fund investment. Oh, it was 10%. And then, okay, put this in the S&P 500. Oh, that growth was 15%. And then there was another investment called a 3 times the S&P 500 daily rate. And then after a year, they looked and they said, oh, but that was 35%. Okay. And then I said, you see the difference? And then seeing was believing for me and for them too. And they saw it and they said, I get it.
Yeah.
And that was how I convinced them. So to this day, they have savings account, but it's just minimal amounts in it. Their investment account is what eventually helped them to understand the power of investing.
Yeah. It's such a powerful concept to teach your kids, right? But a lot of parents, they don't do that because, a lot of parents, they don't even invest themselves, right? Let alone telling the kids how to
Right.
do it. So
Yeah.
it's one of the biggest lessons that I learned from the book, to be honest. And the other thing is,
Oh,
yeah, because my family, I didn't learn investment from my family. Like, I had to learn about money in my 20s. It was a bit too late, to be honest. Because I started investing later than most people, right? So anyway,
okay.
and also about education, because I know your family achieved an extraordinary success milestone by collectively earning 7 University of London degrees. So, what role did the education play in the family dynamic and also from your journey from crisis to success?
I'm going to ask Yvonne to answer, but just to prepare her, Yvonne had this philosophy, which you always tell the children. She would say to them, your only job in life is to go to school and do well.
That's right.
Take it
Yes.
from there.
Yes, they don't have any responsibilities. They don't have to worry about the roof over their head, what they're going to eat, or the clothes to wear. That's not their responsibility. That's our responsibility. So I used to tell them, as Cleveland said, your only job right now is to go to school and and do a good job. Do your best. Do an excellent job. So I spend a lot of time with them. When they were young, I read to them and teach them how to read, teach them numbers. I teach them the basics. So I'm always working with them. I buy them books. Once they know how to read, I'm buying them books that they read on their own. When they were maybe the girls were about 2 or 3 years old, I took them to the library. They signed their own library card, get their library books, and on a regular basis, I would walk them over to the library. They get their books. So education plays a big role in that sense. We work along with them on that and show them the importance of it.
Yeah. I
That's yeah.
calling them a lie, right? I remember the lie.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, share that with my listeners.
Right.
Okay.
You really are digging deep into the weeds.
I
I debated whether or not I should write about that lie because it was a lie
Yeah.
and maybe
Yeah.
pride on my part. We were all coming from Sick Kids Hospital. It was in the summer, the children were out of school. And usually when they're out of school and we're going to Sick Kids, we all go as a family. We do everything as a family. So we just happened to be driving just before we went under a bridge, just at the edge of the bridge. And there was my son shouted out and said, hey, Daddy, look, why is that man sleeping under the bridge? So I looked over and I saw the man sleeping. I don't know why the man was sleeping under the bridge. It could have been a social experiment. I do not know. But for some strange reason, and I don't know why that strange reason, the only thought that hit my head was he didn't do his homework. So I call it a lie. I didn't know. And Then Clive Anthony said, "So if you don't do your homework, you're going to sleep under a bridge?" And I thought about it for a little bit, maybe 60 seconds. And then I said, yes, reinforcing the previous lie that I told because I didn't know why the man was sleeping under the bridge. And that was the end of it. Clive Anthony cried. He just started crying. But I, not being so aware of the impact it had on him, thought that was the end of it. He forgot about it. I forgot
Yeah.
about it. Only that one day I was walking past the girls' room and I heard him telling them, "Girls, you better do your homework. Otherwise, you're going to sleep under a bridge." I was shocked. So I ran downstairs and I said to Yvonne, "Guess what happened?" And I relayed the story to her that I heard him telling the girls that they better do their homework because they're going to sleep under a bridge. And only for like the next year, Yvonne had a similar
You're
experience.
right. Samantha came down to the kitchen crying, and I'm, "Samantha, what is wrong?" "Oh, Antoinette doesn't want to do her homework, and I don't want her to sleep under a bridge." And I'm like, oh. So I turned off the stove, went upstairs to the library to find out what is going on because I'm really feeling for her now because she was crying tears, literally crying tears. So I said, "Antoinette," went up to the library, saw Antoinette walking around, just leisurely as if she has nothing to do. So I said, "Antoinette, look at your sister. She's crying. Do you know why she's crying?" "No, mommy. She's crying because you don't want to do your homework and she don't want you to live under a bridge." So I said, "Antoinette, do you have homework?" She said, "Yes, mommy." I said, "You know what you need to do? You need to do your homework. Make sure that's the first thing you do when you get home from school." That was the first and only time I have to talk to them about doing homework ever in their
Right.
school life.
Well, I'm sure it served them well. Well, they did their
Yeah,
homework. But you could have said, because that guy didn't invest his money, that's why he was sleeping under the bridge.
that is true. Yeah.
Positive belief about money. So for the two of you, when did you? So you gotten your masters at University of London. At what age, if I may ask?
Oh, I was in my
Yeah.
master's. Oh, that was early 50s
Okay.
or
I,
late 40s.
early 50s, I
Early
think.
50s.
Yeah.
Early
Yeah.
50s.
For me,
Yeah.
it was age 45. Yes. Me. I got my first degree. Yeah.
What made you decide to pursue higher education in your, 40s, 50s?
Okay. For both of us, well, talking about me, it was always my intention to continue on further education after college because I did do a diploma in business administration, a certificate in human resources, and I wanted to continue on after that. But life happens, and I wasn't able to do that. So Cleveland suggested the idea to me while he was already studying through the University of London, suggested to me, why don't I look at their curriculum and see what interests me? So that's how it happened. Yeah.
And then for me, I had matriculated to the University of the West Indies all the way back in 1984, where I qualified to go and study for a degree in computer science. Anyway, I couldn't afford to pay the tuition and books and so on and so forth. And on campus, you had to live on campus. So I deferred my application. Long story short, I did not attend the University of the West Indies to study computer science. When I migrated to Canada, I registered and was accepted and started a computer science degree at York University in Toronto. Completed the first year, was halfway through the second year, and developed what is now called uh, chronic fatigue syndrome. Massive headaches, massive joint pains, and so forth and so on. Long story short, did not complete that degree either. I took some 3 to 5 years of just not doing anything. It was
Yeah.
difficult. Many days I could not go to work because of the dizziness and so forth that comes with chronic fatigue syndrome. So it's as if there was a force fighting against me to get my first undergrad degree. First, it was I'm too poor, couldn't afford it. Secondly, it was sickness. And then after I felt well enough, healthy enough, I was then traveling extensively. I said, I don't have time to go to classes in the evenings or on weekends. So that's when I started scouring the internet and asking questions of where can I do a degree that I can do distance learning. Found out that the University of London International Programs does that. And so I was really determined to get that degree that I was trying to first get since 1984, and that was really the catalyst. And then once I got in, I completed the undergrad degree in business administration. I switched majors because by then I was in technology and I felt I could continue to learn technology on my own as I did, doing many certificate courses and so forth. I did. But I needed to understand business because I saw the world coming together where business acumen was then required in order to be able to transform organizations through technology adoption. And then I finished the undergrad in June, and by October of the same year, I started the master's program.
Wow. There are so many people, including people that I know, people in my life, that will say, it's too late, I'm too old, I'm too poor, I don't have time, right, to achieve their dreams. So, why do you believe that it's never too late sometimes, which is the title of your book? Like, why did you even make it your title of the book? Like, why do you believe that it's never too late sometimes?
It kind of came from our son. During my educational journey, where I was thinking about not studying, and he said, "Hey, you're still breathing." So we became convinced that so as long as we're still alive, there are many things that we can do, and it's never too late to do those things, so long as we're still breathing. So sometimes it's too late. If we are not breathing, we're not alive, then it's too late to accomplish many things. There are other times when it might be too late, for example, for me to go to the Olympics and win any medal in any field, moreover, a 100-meter dash. It's too late at this stage. But it might not be too late for me to be able to support the entire family and write a memoir, even at my age. When I was 45, it wasn't too late for me to go back to university and obtain my or starting on the pathway to my first undergrad degree. Any other comments, Yvonne?
No, that's it.
Yeah. So, what inspired you, your family, not just you, to write this book together? And how did documenting the process, this journey over 2 decades, I would say, help your family become closer as a unit?
There were lots of notes that we started taking. Now, it started with me, I don't know why, but the very first Thursday that I went into the hospital and Samantha was admitted, I just started to grab whatever pieces of paper I could find and started just taking notes on whatever the doctor said. If there was a blood reading, if there was a temperature reading, blood pressure, I just started writing them down because everything was so confusing and I couldn't figure out that things were so serious. So I would think it maybe 6 months in, I was still taking notes. And then fortunately, Sick Kids gave us every single blood works, or Samantha did a lot of biopsy where they went into her bone marrow and extracted bone marrow and tested it. Half of, or 90% of the results of those, I don't understand, but they gave us
Yeah.
copies. And then we would go try to read. So we had all these notes. And then we started running into people who would say, "Hey, I hear your daughter is sick. What is it? What is it?" And we'd say she has severe acute aplastic anemia. But we found that people would then think it is the regular anemia that we hear is common among people where they might be iron deficient and their red blood cell is low and so forth. And that's not the case. Even people who are in the medical profession, because this disease is so rare, it affects only 3 to 15 people in 1 million of the population every year.
Wow.
It's that rare. So with all the notes we had, Yvonne and I said, one day we're going to turn all of these notes into a book.
Yeah.
But we were so focused in that first 6 months, in that first year, 2 years, 3 years. I was working a lot. We started studying. We figured we can't possibly write the book during that time. But because of my investments and what we were doing in 2004, about August, which is last year, I fully retired from corporate life. And that's when Yvonne and I almost had a moment of discovery. We said, we now have time. We
Yeah.
can write the book.
Yeah.
Yvonne runs a tutoring business now. But however, how the writing went was I'd scoped out the chapters and it wavered and changed. And then I'd send it, like I told you earlier, our son doesn't live in this country. So we collaborate and we have lots of Zoom calls and say, hey, what do you think about that chapter? And what should we call that chapter? And so on and so forth. And then I started doing the broad based draft and then send it to everyone
Yeah.
to change and add and remove and improve. So we were writing and doing our editing at the same time, except that I did most of the initial drafts,
Right.
and then everyone else filled in and corrected and changed
Yeah.
and so forth and so on. And more importantly, I should say I wanted families and other people to know that there is a significant difference between aplastic anemia and anemia.
Right.
In fact, the one message we wanted to get over is that aplastic anemia is a precursor to leukemia, and it looks like leukemia and it presents the symptoms like leukemia.
Right.
And in our case, the Sick Kids Hospital treat people with leukemia and aplastic anemia in the same clinic.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were about to say, sorry, I stopped you.
Yeah, you already answered my question, which is what is the one message that you want readers to take away? But okay, what is one reason they should pick up this book and read it?
I think it is to give hope.
Right.
Is to learn to pivot from a difficult situation and be able to focus. I am going to ask Yvonne if there's another reason she has in mind.
Okay, so just to tag on to what Cleveland said, to find hope in any situation, or to find the good in whatever life presents to you. The one thing I would say, or more than one thing, is that to persevere. Persevere in whatever challenges you face in life. Find hope during that time as well. Find the good in every situation. Focus on that. Persevere. Find strength, whether from your inner self or from those around you. Find strength to persevere and continue on the journey that life presents to you.
And one of the things I discovered, again, like I was driving with Samantha home, is that when things happen to us, it is likely happening to us and not others because we have the strength to cope.
Right.
I'm sure you can deal with anything today, right? No matter what. So,
Yeah.
So even what you said was beautiful. So that was the I would say the advice to give for emotions support. So what advice would you give to families navigating a rare disease or diagnosis? The practical advice, like is there anything that can do practically, maybe to find out more about the disease or things like that? What would be the practical advice that you give to families who are going through challenges like you have been through?
Reach out, especially today in the internet age, is to reach out to reputable internet sites. So, for example, NIH, National Institute of Health, that is based in the US. In the UK, it could be the National Health Service or System, the NHS. In Canada, in terms of leukemia, in terms of aplastic anemia, myelodysplasia are some related diseases to severe acute aplastic anemia and leukemia. There are lots of sites in Canada that is related to those diseases and covers those diseases. And perhaps the most important one is the biggest hospital in Canada that treats those types of diseases, and it is the Sick Kids Hospital. And just Googling Sick Kids Toronto will take you to the Sick Kids Hospital. There is an aplastic anemia and myelodysplasia Association of Canada, and it is a wonderful site that provides lots of information. They helped us and still are helping us through our
Yeah.
journey. And all of those sites are covered in the book, and there are links to them and QR codes that someone can just scan it and get to those sites. So we found that it was important to try to find the correct information. And I know myelodysplasia and aplastic anemia are very, very rare diseases.
Yeah.
And it was really helpful that those associations and those sites that I'm telling you about exist to help to explain what we could do and not do, because with such rare diseases, the information is not widely available. So that's what and then the other thing I would say is be as inquisitive as you can, parents. Ask your clinicians, ask the doctors, ask the nurses, ask them all the stupid questions like I did. I didn't know things, so I just asked questions like, why is the transfusion bag not red? Because I thought it was blood transfusion, and
Right.
only to realize it's not whole blood, it's just platelets. And the platelets are not red, they're kind of yellowish. So ask those questions, and then it helped us to learn. So we were just continuously learning,
Right.
continuously learning.
And thanks for writing the book. Now that they get more resources to learn more about this rare disease and learn from your personal journey. So, what does success mean to you, mean to your family now, given everything that you have achieved and also been through?
So success, I think, is not only about money. I read a lot about people who see success as just financial success, but clearly our family sees success as having, imagining and being willing to pursue something so that the outcome is different from what it would have been. So what do I mean by that? Yvonne was successful in that she was willing to imagine that whatever voice she heard inside her head or outside was something important. So let me go pursue this thing that Samantha is really sick and the clock is ticking. Let me go to the family doctor and find out what's going on, which in my brain makes no sense because he had already an appointment with a pediatrician. And then being willing to drive that through. Family doctor sent her to hospital one. Oh, wow, she went. Hospital one sent her to hospital two. Oh, wow, she also went. So she drove that through to the completion. So that was good health outcome. That to me, that was success. And from an educational point of view, let me ask Yvonne to talk about success.
Okay, so success for us is to master and pull through your challenges to receive a successful end. That's how I view success for us.
Yeah.
Yvonne is not as outspoken as I am, so she's holding back some of her successes. For example, in education, statistics was an area that Yvonne had challenges with, and talked about chi squared.
Oh yes, for my statistics exam, you want to pass your exam, so the challenges I faced with it was just to understand all about it. It would take me days walking around the neighborhood crying because I just couldn't get it.
Chi
But
squared in particular.
chi squared in particular, and but I, dry my eyes, go back home, look at the book again, and work at it until now. Chi square is my favorite topic in statistics. My favorite.
So for us, that was
Yeah.
success. And if I think about finance, success was finance. In finance was important in that I was able to retire earlier than I had initially planned because we were able to successfully invest our funds using the capital markets, the stock market, and our children were able to successfully complete the last 3 years of their undergrad university, and our son the last 3 years of his undergrad and all of his master's courses because of the investments they did
Right.
in the stock market. And today our son was thankfully
Yeah.
able to buy his first property because he graduated debt free from both his degrees. He had no debt, and he was able to buy his first property because of within 2 years of working.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
within 2 years of starting his corporate life.
Yeah.
It's very impressive. I got to interview him and have him on the show and talk
Yes,
about his
yes.
success.
Certainly,
Right?
Yeah.
certainly we can arrange that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing so generously with me and my listeners today. Now, is there anything that perhaps you really want to talk about, but I didn't do my job well, didn't ask you, or didn't let you?
No, I think you did a phenomenal job, and you had us here talking for so many minutes, 40 odd, if not 50 minutes. And I just want to say that the book inspired us. That's this book. It's never too late sometimes. It did inspire Yvonne and I after we wrote it. And
Right.
while we were doing the editing, and as you can see, Yvonne is the lead author, and we're all co authors. And we cried while editing it, while we
Yeah.
were reading back the manuscript, we wept because we didn't realize that the things that were we wrote were so impactful. So now we were just reading it to see, hey, what's the story like? Well, how is it presenting to people? So if anyone wants to pick this up, it's available on Amazon in Kindle version and in paperback, like this version of the book. And we just hope that it would be able to inspire someone who might be going through some difficult, dark moments, to give them assurance that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that despite the despair, there can be hope. The one can pivot from their circumstances that they're in, and they can find a way to get to a better place.
Right.
Beautiful. Yvonne, any last messages to our listeners?
I would also encourage you to buy the book and even share it with someone, buy a book for someone, because it is very inspirational. It's not just a sad book about a terminal illness. It's about hope, it's about resilience,
Mm.
it's about unity
Mm,
and success in all of that. Yes.
definitely. Yeah. I mean, I personally found, I mean, I learned so many, like I said, I learned so many lessons from and inspiration from the book. And so, are there any upcoming events or book signings, or what is next for you? Are you going to write another book? I know you guys started a podcast, right? Let's talk about your podcast. What is it about?
Yes, yes. We did start a podcast
Yes.
because of the book and
That's
because
right.
of feedback we were getting. So our social handles are everything on our socials is called Stanberry Archives. So our website is stanberryarchives.com. And our podcast is available everywhere that podcasts are, on all platforms. And it is called Stanberry Archives. And on our podcast, it's very similar to how you make us comfortable here having a
Yeah.
conversation with you. So far, the episodes that we have, it's introducing us,
Right.
Yvonne and I.
Yes.
We talk about our lives and where we came from and from our birth until now. And the intention is to also then bring in our children
Right.
and then have them give their perspective on their lives and on the book. And also, our son is a data scientist. He works in AI. He's an AI engineer. And he came up with a concept 2 weeks ago, maybe by now,
Yeah.
that he had an AI engine discussing the book.
Wow.
Right.
So that's also on the podcast.
Right. Yeah.
And it's very interesting. So I would invite others to go and have a listen to the podcast. Search for Stanberry, STAN Archives, ARCHIVES. So I thought the AI did a good job of two people just discussing this book, and they got 99% of it right. And then in terms of what's next, I touched on it a bit about finance and our finance journey, and we started putting down some notes, and we think that we're going to eventually turn that into a book.
That's
In fact,
right. Yeah.
we have the first draft of what the chapters might look like, but it is not financial advice in any way, shape, or form. It is history about what we did
Right.
with our family's finance.
I love to learn. I would love to learn that. Please let me know when it's ready. Yep.
Okay.
Will do.
Definitely.
Two of you have been so kind with your time today. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate that.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. It's good to be here.
All right, guys, I put all the links in the show note below. Go to Amazon now and buy the book. Visit our website and find out all the amazing things they are doing. You'll find all the information in the show note below. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss another episode coming to you every Wednesday. And I will always leave you the same way as I leave you every other episode. Show up. The one is you and you need you. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead.
Thank you again for tuning into Find Joy Joyan podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and share it on your IG story and tag findjoyjoyan_podcast so I know you are listening. And leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And remember to hit the subscribe button whether you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of your other favorite platforms. If you love what we are doing and want to become one of our sponsors, you can send me a DM to connect. And thanks for being here. I will see you soon in the next episode.